Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and it is on like Donkey Kong. I was actually putting my video together this morning. I was so focused on what I was pulling together that I had no idea what the market was doing. I got a phone call from Mr. B, and Mr. B told me, he said, "Great day, huh?" or something like that. And I was like, "What do you mean? What's going on?" And he said, "Well, XRP just went up like 5 cents in minutes, and Bitcoin has crossed $20,000. Folks, we've been waiting on that number. Listen, Bitcoin crossing $20,000 is a big, big deal because that's what sets this ball rolling. That's the final piece of the puzzle psychologically for all of these traditional financial media to start covering it. They're going to start telling all the average Joe public that we've crossed 20K Bitcoin for the first time since 2017. And that everybody remembers. And when they start hearing that, the dominoes will begin to fall. Not only that, but the money always flows into Bitcoin first, and then it starts to work its way down into the digital assets that actually have utility, like the one, XRP. So let's go through some things. First of all, we need to give credit where credit's due. The Joker never backed off on the fact that we're in a bull market and that Bitcoin in the last few days when the market's been pulling back, he's been very consistent. He said, this is from December 14th, 2 days ago. Why I am still bullish on XRP. 1, Bitcoin is targeting 23K levels. 2, the market is strong. 3, bulls buying the dip. 4, 50 cents holding well as support. This is a beautiful resistance to support flip. Anything below 50 cents is like winning a lottery. All right. So and he showed this chart. Now, the second thing, he said, I think this is yesterday. Let's do some math. The most spoken long-term targets for Bitcoin, Litecoin, XRP, Ethereum, Bitcoin 200K 10 times, XRP 250 500 times, Litecoin 10K 125 times, Ethereum 20K 33 times. Institutional FOMO makes sense to me. XRP is the forbidden fruit in the crypto heaven, and that makes sense too. That's right. Great. I like this word here. This right here. XRP, the forbidden fruit. I've told you many times on this channel, I've been told from the time I invested in XRP from many different directions that it's not for us. And that has always intrigued me, almost as if someone said in a boardroom at one point that it's not for us. I Am Legion tweeted this out today. Next XRP to bust $3.20, the all-time high within a month. Crazy Christmas, crazy New Year, crazy 2021. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if you see this and some, okay? Now, let's look what is happening in the market. So fiat oftentimes will kind of lead where the market is. I've seen XRP go up as high as around, I think it was 51 cents this morning. It happened like literally in an instant, but right now it's up over 7.5% on fiat leak. Let's see what it looks like on Coinbase. Yeah, up 7% or so. So 7%, that's not a bad day. And then let's do a refresh on CoinMarketCap. If you remember yesterday, I want to say we were at around 560 billion. I believe this market is about to cross 600 billion. And remember, the highest this market has ever been is 850 billion or so is what it reached back in 2017. That will be crushed because it's on like Donkey Kong. We've been waiting for years for this to happen, and everybody is ready. Doesn't matter if we have these pullbacks. Everybody's ready, and Bitcoin has crossed 20K, and that's everything to get this thing going. XRP is over 50 cents. Now, Seiko Carmona sent me this. This is an interesting quote from back in 2015. This guy from the Observer, the race to replace Bitcoin. Ripple quickly became the consensus successor to Bitcoin. It was clear to the fintech world that Ripple could match and potentially overtake Bitcoin in shaping the future of cryptocurrency. Now, let's look at some interesting things. Greg Kidd had tweeted this out yesterday. Words mean things, folks. Pay close attention. Joel Katz, David Schwartz, CTO of Ripple, is the best educator on crypto, whether you are already an expert or a newbie. He's been there from the start and was my personal guide to the promised land. Now, Greg Kidd, who is a billionaire and one of the first 10 guys at Ripple, is telling you that David Schwartz was his guide to the promised land being XRP. He told me, Greg Kidd told me when I interviewed him, that when he discovered Ripple and what they were doing, that it was like Moses coming down. In other words, Greg Kidd has just said that XRP is biblical. Is that wrong? I don't think so. It will be biblical. And that's me talking. But I'm piecing together what Greg Kidd believes that XRP and what it will do will be biblical. And I do too. Anybody that's been around does too. Okay. But remember, he says that David Schwartz was his guide to the promised land. What's the promised land? XRP. And it was like Moses coming down to see XRP, right? I mean, come on. Words mean things, folks. All right. Now, this is fascinating. I was made aware of this by Joseko Carmona yesterday. SparkFlare, I had missed it. SparkFlare trades at US $1 a token on leading Indian crypto platform Giotis. I guess is how you'd say that. Giotis, an official partner of the Flare airdrop, was open trade of Spark tokens for its users on the 12th of December 2020, a global first. These are IOUs because the token itself hasn't been distributed yet. More than 15,000 innovators, I'm assuming they meant investors, have traded Spark on the platform in the first 24 hours. Spark price hit an intraday high of $2.30 per token. Now, this could be that because this is the only exchange doing this right now, that there was a frenzy. That's what I'm assuming this was. But isn't it interesting anyway? So that it's going to be interesting to see how all this unfolds. XRP Crypto Wolf had put this out. And by the way, I'm going to hit you with some good stuff here in a second, some real good stuff. Ethereum addresses have spiked to new highs following the XRP snapshot for the Spark token airdrop. Are they related? Sentiment analytics provider reported that its network growth metric showed Ethereum adding 177,500 addresses in a single day on December the 12th. Remember, Ripple wanted to connect to Ethereum. I believe that Spark has something to do with bridging to Ethereum 2.0, that is. Okay. Now, Riz XRP sent me this. Now remember, 2 weeks ago, China comes out and says that they have got quantum supremacy. All of a sudden, now remember, everybody told us we're not allowed to talk about quantum because it's 10 years out, right? We can't talk about it. It's off the table. You can't talk about a quantum financial system. It's off the table. Meanwhile, China declares quantum supremacy. And then IBM now is saying they're building a 459 Fahrenheit fridge to house the world's largest quantum computer. Okay? This is, it's called a super fridge. Well, anyway, I just thought this was interesting. And then this guy, Roly Poly, sends me this. It's a picture of Elon Musk. Starlink is a quantum internet, ? From September 3rd. Now, I listened to a little bit of this guy's video, and the guy is a young guy, obviously sounds like he's a really smart guy. But I just wanted to read you a couple of things in here that he said. He said, according to the next article, this is a blog he wrote. According to the next article, and the backdrop here is, I know nothing about quantum. I'm just reading you what some apparently smart people are saying, and quantum just keeps on coming up. And Starlink does too. And I've told you that the ultimate end game is nodes on the satellites, period. I don't care what anybody says. That's a part of this, is having a financial system that is intergalactic, like Greg Kidd also said. According to the next article that I will cite, quantum internet is explained in more detail. This internet would need to be based in space in order to run properly. Once you read on, you will be able to connect the dots that Starlink is the perfect cover for launching of a technology that was not supposed to be active for another 10 years, right? Remember when I told you the story about when I was a kid? I remember it like it was yesterday. I was playing basketball at my church. They had a church gym. And it was when the Gulf War was launched. And there, we could see on the TV these Scud missiles going through the air. And I remember them talking about how the United States has these things called Patriot missiles, which we had never heard of at the time. And these Patriot missiles could shoot other missiles out of the sky. And I had not heard of anything like that since they said that Reagan had scrapped the Star Wars program because it didn't work or whatever. And then all of a sudden we've got Patriot missiles that can shoot things out of the sky. The case in point, and I also used as an example, the Manhattan Project, which was top secret, and then all of a sudden we had an atomic bomb and World War II was over. Just because they don't tell you in news articles that that technologies are here does not mean that they're not here. And when I keep seeing quantum this, quantum that, quantum this, China's announcing they've got quantum supremacy, what I'm thinking is that it's already here and we just don't know it yet. Now watch this. As we go down this page, at the very end down here, well, here it says, deployment. We've been seeing the deployment of all these Starlink satellites. Though we know they're for 5G, but I've been telling you there's nodes on them as well, I believe. It says at the end here, it says a quantum internet would need to be space because it needs to run in a vacuum under low temperatures and needs to be away from the surface of the planet and all its surface interference. My working theory is Elon Musk is deploying a quantum internet under the guise of Starlink. It makes no sense to go to all the trouble to develop such a robust space-based internet just to reach a few rural areas of the planet that have no need for access. Elon is always thinking big. And I also have always loved that he has an X symbol just like XRP does. Of course, that's a coincidence, you know. All right, now, moving along, let's talk about LIBOR. But before we talk about LIBOR, I want you to understand what LIBOR is. Now remember, before I start, XRP has always been about derivatives. Rachel Lee, who disappeared from Twitter, said it. Kendra Hill, who disappeared from Steemit, said it, and I'll show you what they said in a minute. It's always been about derivatives and liquidity and solving the problems that were exposed in the financial crisis. Watch.
London Interbank offered rate. It's the rate at which the banks are prepared to lend to each other and the benchmark. But this is how it's set. Around 11 o'clock in the morning, the BBA asks, at what rate could you borrow to the banks between themselves? Now, it's not asking at what rate did you or may you, or perhaps thinking of, but what rate you could borrow if you needed money. The banks then go and try and work out what the rate is and they respond. Again, it's very much, this is the rate we think we could borrow at. It's not factual as such, and that was one of the big problems. Once they've put in their submissions at 11:45, the BBA publishes LIBOR. The benchmark has been set. The world has been told. And so, all other interest rates, for credit cards in some cases, for home loans, for all sorts of rolling over of debt. And if you want to see exactly how LIBOR is used, look at this. This is Citadeli. It is a Latvian bank, and it's the private customers, the rates that they would offer. Home loans, mortgage loans, standing credit cards, car leasing. And what you notice when you look at the terms and conditions, LIBOR, 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 LIBOR. Anybody borrowing money from this bank has a LIBOR plus 3.6, a LIBOR plus 1.56, LIBOR plus. Time and again, it is the LIBOR rate that makes the difference. And that is why, in this particular case, it was all so serious what happened with LIBOR.
Okay, so there you go. That's LIBOR. All right. Now remember, Michelle Vandenberg sent me, yesterday, Ripple announces that they have added to their board of directors this Sandy O'Connor. Few bankers can claim to have created a new financial market, but Sandy O'Connor can. And this is an article from American Banker. And she says, I think we're changing. Says, I think we're changing the market landscape to make it better for all participants. Most powerful women in banking. It's often to get, Down here, it says, in June, the Alternative Reference Rate Committee, which includes executives from big banks, hedge funds, and other financial institutions, unveiled its recommendation for replacing LIBOR, the subject of rate manipulation scandals after the global financial crisis. The new rate, which the Fed will start publishing in 2018, is designed to reflect the rate of interest that lenders would charge a borrower perceived to have zero risk. It will be based on a broad range of repo rates paid in the market for short-term cash borrowing secured by U.S. Treasury security. Working on LIBOR reform is just one way that O'Connor, a 29-year veteran of J.P. Morgan, is making her mark on financial policy making. And then it says she's advised the Trump administration on regulatory reform. What have we been talking about? Regulatory reform. LIBOR reform is what this lady has been working on. Now, I looked on YouTube and then I saw that this person, Liquid XRP, had seen the same video. Sandy O'Connor talking about replacing LIBOR on CFTC in August 2020. Now, as I play you these clips, I want you to count how many times she says the word derivatives. And I want you to think, what has XRP always been about? Remember, cross-border. Rachel Lee, Kendra Hill, cross-border was a test. It's always been about FX and derivatives. Listen to how many times in the discussion about LIBOR, she talks about derivatives.
It's interesting, I think, for most Americans, they don't understand how important this benchmark is.
No, absolutely. LIBOR is pervasive in many aspects of financial markets. Clearly, the largest market that references LIBOR is the derivatives market. So of the $200 trillion that resets based on LIBOR, I would say 95% of it is in the derivatives market. But again...
All right, there's your first one. Let's see if we can find you another one.
You mentioned... the Alternative Reference Rate Committee. I know you're part of that. What's your role and what is and when did that form and what's happening there? Because there's such a key component to this transition away from LIBOR.
Sure, absolutely. So the Alternative Reference Rate Committee, and I'm the chair.
So you're kind of important.
I was the chair of 1.0 and ARC 2.0, which I'm sure we'll get to.
Right.
But the Alternative Reference Rate Committee was convened by, the Federal Reserve Board, the Federal Reserve of New York, the Treasury, the CFTC, the OFR, really to address the financial stability risk that could occur if LIBOR no longer existed. So in 2014, this group was brought together with three very distinct objectives. One, identify one or more alternative risk-free or nearly risk-free rates that could be used as a replacement for LIBOR for derivatives contracts.
There you go. And then here at the 9-minute mark, let's go to this.
That is what ARC 1.0 was charged with. And as you can imagine, the composition of that committee, because again, it was driven to identify this risk-free rate for use in derivatives, was 50.
There's another one. Ding, ding, ding. I need to have a bell every time she says derivatives. And then let's go on to the 20-minute mark because she says something really interesting here. Here we go.
Date. Because remember I told you ARC 1.0 started out because the Financial Stability Board and FSOC really wanted us to find an alternative for derivatives.
Boom. All right. So derivatives. All right. And then I found this interesting tweet. Yes, I knew nothing. This is XRP photographer back on December 4th. Yes, I knew nothing was going to happen until January. At the end of January, the LIBOR SOFR cutover happens. Keep your eyes on it. And this is Brian Brooks when he said in the next 6 to 8 weeks, you're going to see regulatory clarity. And then there's this. I just looked around and happened to find this. Ripple effect. I like the wording there. I think it's kind of interesting. Ripple effect. The impact of moving away from LIBOR. I want to draw your attention to this question. Who do you think will be the first to move away from LIBOR? Jeffrey Peck, I think this is a law firm that's been studying this. The first movers away from LIBOR will likely be large global banks and other large sophisticated financial institutions with more operational resources to handle the transition. Derivatives dealers in particular may transition from LIBOR more quickly because they are accustomed to overnight discounting. And then we have this. This is Rachel Lee. For those of you that haven't been around, Rachel Lee was all over Twitter for a period of at least a year or so and then disappeared. She may be lurking now. I'm sure she is, but she doesn't go by Rachel Lee anymore. And she said, I will summarize Ripple on their objectives for you. Capture FX market, $5.1 trillion. Capture derivatives market, $1.2 quadrillion. XRP to provide major banks liquidity. Remove Nostro, $27 trillion. XRP will provide liquidity, global liquidity crisis approaching, tied to LIBOR. And then we have this from Esoteric XRP. So who told us XRP cross-border transactions was just a test? And the true goal of Ripple was the derivatives market, all the money. And then he goes on to say Vega protocol will be live soon. And he says F you as well to the Kendrill haters. Okay. Crypto Dim sent us this. Ross Ulbricht, the founder of the dark web marketplace Silk Road, is being considered for presidential pardon by real Donald Trump, according to a report. Now, what's always interested me about this guy is what I'll show you here. What this guy basically was, and he was the guy that was allowing bad guys, I guess you'd say, or people to buy drugs and weapons or whatever over online and pay for them so that they could hide, I guess, with Bitcoin and digital currency or whatever. During that time, he was running that game through, I think it was the guy's company down here, Charlie Shrem, Charlie Shrem ran at the time BitInstant. So it was a combination of BitInstant and Mt. Gox. And the guys that went to jail was Ross Ulbricht, and Charlie Shrem he's out of jail now. I actually saw him at a table when I was in a Mexican restaurant in a casino in Vegas. He was at the table right beside me. But Mt. Gox was the other party involved. Jed McCaleb started Mt. Gox. Jed McCaleb supposedly sold Mt. Gox to this Mark Kapalis guy. And I've always found it curious that of all these guys, Mark Kapalis didn't go to jail, but they prosecuted him, and I think he worked out some kind of deal or whatever. But Jed McCaleb didn't go to jail. So you had Ulbricht, basically Mt. Gox and BitInstant were the facilitators of these transactions, is more or less the way I understand it. But somehow I've always been amazed at how Jed McCaleb somehow just got off scot-free and happens to go inform Ripple. Woo! I won't go any further into that, but I've always been curious about that. Ian Northing, Ripple is on the cover of the Financial IT Winter issue as Euro Exim Bank discusses a trade finance revolution using RippleNet and XRP ODL in trade. This guy, let me see if they've got his name here because I met him. This guy was literally on a bus when I was in Singapore at Ripple Swell 2019, and he had a cane. He was the nicest. He was a British guy, as I recall. But I like this line down here. This arrangement solves two problems. The liquidity in the market for XRP is enormous, with the result that the currency conversions are cheap and easy. In conventional foreign exchange markets, by contrast, it's often expensive and difficult to convert a currency into or out of U.S. dollars. But anyway, this guy made the cover, and I remember him. He was a very, very nice gentleman. Okay. Then this pops up on CNN today. The MoneyGram CEO, Alex Holmes, who was also on stage at Ripple Swell 2019.
If you think about it. And so for us, having access to liquidity, improving speed of transaction and throughput is really what I think can be transformative for our industry, our business in particular, in the coming decade. And Ripple is doing a lot of unique things with blockchain, with crypto to help drive that. And it's been a very nice partnership. We've obviously learned a lot together and continue to push, I think, really push the boundaries of what can be. And it's been a lot of fun, for sure.
Yeah, it's fascinating to watch. Alex, great to have you on the show. As always, I've got 20 more questions I want to ask you, but we'll get you back soon. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it.
Great to have you on show and see you at MoneyGram.
So, Julia Chatterley strikes again. She's all over it all the time. And finally, I wanted to remind you, I liked this. Your mind is a powerful thing. When you fill it with positive thoughts, your life will start to change. I fully believe that. I live it every day. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that Bitcoin has crossed 20K. And it is on like Donkey Kong, not just for Bitcoin, but for digital assets. They are ready. And it will be biblical. Thank you for listening.